particular type of object, you're going to be talking about the internal mechanisms of the machine, and you're going to be talking about a series of causes. You're going to talk about events inside the machine that produce other events, that eventually produce the product that comes out on the other side of the machine. But in addition, whenever you're including human beings, particularly socialized human beings, in an explanation, you're also going to have to include, in addition to causes, you're going to have to include reasons and motives. The explanation in terms of reasons and motives, the distinction can be explained perfectly well this way. Imagine that you are in England, and you are from the United States or from France or from a place in which everybody drives on the right side of the road, and of course the British drive on the opposite side of the road. Why? Because they're British. So you ask yourself, the first time you go to London, and you ask yourself, why are those guys driving on the other side of the road? So you give a reason as an explanation. Because it's customary in England, or is a convention in England, that is the correct side of the road. So when you're in England and you're trying to answer the question, why are they driving on the other side of the road, or on the side of the road that we don't normally drive, the answer is a reason. Reasons are typically conventions, social customs, things that don't necessarily have to do with a particular person, but that apply to whole collectivities of people. In this particular case, the entire population of England. But if you are in France or in the United States and someone is driving on the left side of the road, and on the opposite side of the road, and you ask, why is that guy driving on the other side of the road? You ask for an explanation. The answer is probably going to be a motive. Because in the United States and France, people drive on the right side of the road. And someone is driving on the left side of the road, you might say, because he's trying to escape from the police. And so he's driving on the opposite side of the road to get all these cars coming at him and confuse the cops that are chasing him behind. In other words, you have to give a motive as an explanation. So motives are explanations in terms of goals, are explanations in terms of what someone is trying to do, or someone is trying to achieve. Again, they are not subjective, although they are objective explanations, because they, in court, for instance, when you're trying to find the motive of a crime or the motive for a homicide, you're not making subjective judgments in terms of what you would think it would be. You're trying to find the actual motive that someone had. Why did he kill his wife? Well, because of the money. Or why did he quit his job? Because he was fed up with the way they were treating him in his job. You give, at least hypothetical, goals that the persons whose behavior you're trying to explain may have had, and those were the motives. What? The motives that explain his or her behavior. On the other hand, when you're trying to explain customary behavior, when you're trying to explain why do they celebrate so much on Cinco de Mayo? Well, because that is a holiday in Mexico, and all those Mexicans are celebrating Cinco de Mayo. You don't have to give motives one by one, because this guy likes to celebrate, this other guy likes to celebrate. The whole bunch likes to celebrate because everybody does, and that is a reason. So you give reasons sometimes as explanations, you give motives sometimes as explanations, and sometimes you give causes. And in fact, in many times you give all three, because physical action, like moving from one place to another, why did he get here so fast? Because he walked very fast. Well, that's a causal explanation. It has to do with your physical interactions and the speed, the objective physical speed that you use to come here. But you can also ask, I don't mean why did he come here so fast in terms of physical causes. Why did he bother to come here so fast? Oh, because he wanted to go to the bathroom and he couldn't really, he was hardly going to make it. That's a motive. So sometimes in giving explanations, particularly in social matters, you need to use all three forms of explanation. You have to give reasons sometimes, or you have to give motives sometimes, and you have to give causes. And in all cases, questions of relevance, significance, or importance are about what factors to include in an explanation. Philosophy, many times, is about giving explanations. And particularly the type of philosophy we're going to be talking about today, philosophy of history, philosophy in which you're trying to explain particular historical episodes. Why did Napoleon lose at Waterloo? Well, you're going to have to give explanations in terms of causes. The Russian winter destroyed half of his army, and the army with which he showed up at Waterloo was a much made out of rookies. You're going to have to explain motives in terms of perhaps his own arrogance and his own personal way of dismissing the enemy or underestimating the enemy. And you may also be able to give reasons, because the motivation that the troops had when they sang the Marseillaise at the beginning of the Revolutionary Wars and at the beginning of the Napoleonic Wars, that motive, that reason for going to war to defend your country was gone by the time of Waterloo. His troops were not nearly as motivated. They had been drafted, and they were perhaps grudgingly joining the army, and they were not the original armies with which Napoleon defeated the Prussians, defeated the Spanish, defeated the Italians, defeated everybody in his original campaigns. So the answer, why did Napoleon lose in Waterloo, is going to have some causes, questions about how the winter affected his troops on the exit from Russia. It's going to have some reasons, questions having to do with collective feelings of nationalism, collective feelings of perhaps xenophobia against the Prussians, and motives, questions about Napoleon's own state of mind, about his own goals, and about his own personal feelings. For instance, an excess of ambition, or perhaps an excess of arrogance. So historical explanations are complex, and they involve a variety of factors. And making judgments of significance or importance or relevance are always necessary when giving explanations, because the very first thing you do is eliminate all those factors that were really irrelevant to this particular explanation. Now, there might still be an element of subjectivity there, because of course when you give explanations, the majority of explanations are hypothetical explanations. Is your best guess as to how to answer the question why. And you might then try to gather some evidence in support of your explanation. So there might be an aspect of subjectivity to the extent that you are not absolutely sure that is a correct explanation, and you're giving your best guess, your best educated guess, to say this is what explains this particular historical episode. But nevertheless, everybody, at least every historian, every serious philosopher of history, is trying to give the correct explanations. And when he or she makes judgments of significance or relevance, is precisely choosing those factors that you consider to be relevant to the explanation, the relevant reasons, the relevant motives, the relevant causes, and disregarding all the myriad of other factors that were irrelevant for that explanation. So when asking the question, why did Napoleon lose in Waterloo, bringing, for instance, the American Revolutionary War to the explanation might seem irrelevant. I, for one thing, think it's irrelevant. Or you might think bringing the factors about the childhood of Napoleon and some kind of Oedipal thing about Napoleon's relationship to his mother, you might think it's irrelevant to that explanation. It may turn out not to be, but any explanation begins with a proposition of what relevant factors are going to enter into an explanation, and then of course you need to go about gathering evidence to support your claims, of relevance or significance. So one might say, hey, I disagree with you. I think that in addition to what you're saying, there are other factors that are significant here that you're leaving out of the explanation. Or someone might say, hey, I don't agree with you. You're including certain factors that I think are totally irrelevant. So there's room for disagreement, room for debate, room for consensus making and giving the explanations, but it is not nearly as subjective as I suggested mistakenly yesterday when I said relevance has to do with the meaning of my life